Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that the Muppet Christmas Carol is no perfect movie. And I'm not going to tell you what the story is because you guys already know that. You were either introduced to A Christmas Carol through the Mickey Mouse version or the Muppet version, so there's really nothing all that different other than outside of the usual Muppet fourth wall jokes that they throw into a movie like this. When they're telling the story seriously, they're actually quoting the book verbatim, which is something that you wouldn't really expect from a Muppet movie to actually quote the original source material word by word, almost like it's a Shakespeare movie. But I really got to give them points because if you haven't read the book, you're not actually going to notice that unless you've seen a ton of other adaptations. I only found this out just because after I watched the Muppet version, I went to the Robert Zemeckis Jim Carrey version, and listening to the dialogue in the Zemeckis one, I just realized he didn't really write that much. He just quoted the book verbatim, but then again, so did the Muppet version. The only thing that really stands out, other than the fact that it's Muppet characters reacting off of Michael Caine as Scrooge McDuck, is that they treat it equally seriously and funny, which is something that most Charles Dickens adaptations, especially Christmas Carol movies and shows, really struggle with. They feel that they need to focus more on the darker elements, the consequences that Scrooge has inflicted on others that cannot be reversed, rather than the more optimistic moments, the themes of redemption, the things that we want Scrooge to succeed with in the end that make us read the book and continue to watch these adaptations. But since this is a Muppet movie, they have made the wise choice of having the characters react off of Scrooge in a more comedic fashion that still fits the Charles Dickens aesthetic, because no matter how many cruel things that Scrooge says towards characters like Cratchit or Fred, they still keep their spirits up because they have already learned the valuable lessons and have forged the strong family bonds that Scrooge is looking for throughout this entire movie. So it makes sense that no matter how many times Scrooge is a bully to these characters, they still wear a smile on their face and they still haven't given up hope. And it's just such a joy to see on screen. On top of that, I love the fact that Gonzo and Rizzo are the narrators in this movie because Brian Henson as a director comes up with so many creative pratfalls as these two are literally following Scrooge from setting to setting over the course of the story. One great example being when the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge flying in the air, they attach themselves to Scrooge with a rope, but as they're going through the past, they're slamming into walls, they're slamming into trees, other birds are pecking at them. There's just so much creativity to the slapstick. One of the most hilarious examples being when they're on a lamppost, Rizzo catches on fire, and their screams and reactions to each other were just. I laughed my ass off. I could have been rolling on the floor the entire time. Same with one example when Miss Piggy is playing Cratchit's wife. And of course, that means she gets to kiss Kermit. That means she gets to say that she's married to him, and he's giving that disappointed look where he just sits there and goes, "Oh, why was this in the script?" But one thing I didn't remember going in, but what was pleasantly surprised by is that Brian Henson, despite the fact that he does have a lot of really creative slapstick, also still directs this very dark gothic atmosphere that you also would associate with a Charles Dickens adaptation. Something I noticed is that he really liked to use Dutch angles to build up Scrooge as this intimidating presence, especially during the opening song where we only see him from the feet down as the other Muppets are singing about him to really build up this ominous presence. And there's also a really creative combined use of lighting and these extreme wide shots of Scrooge in his own home where everything is so dimly lit, he's surrounded by shadows. It's what makes us feel sympathetic to how lonely he is and how we want him to redeem himself, to make it up to the people that he still has in his life before it's too late. And of course, because it's Brian Henson, it goes without saying that the incorporation of puppets and human actors are very seamless. And there are a lot more shots of Muppet characters standing up or singing and dancing than I've seen in any other Muppet movie, and it led to a lot of really good jaw-dropping moments. They're not just dancing, they're sliding on ice, they're flying through the air, through obviously green screen effects, but I'm always looking to see where the hand going up the puppet is supposed to be in the green screen, or when they're on the ground with the human actors at the exact same time. Because when you research how they make a puppet and human show, they have to take out and replace floorboards so that human actors can walk in a scene, but the puppeteers don't have to move around all the time. There's even a couple shots where Scrooge actually grabs a puppet as they're talking, throws them out of a room, and it's still very convincing. I actually couldn't believe it. So it has all the technical achievements. It has a lot of great puppet design. It has a lot of great practical set design. Like, the opening shot is a miniature town, and then once the camera pans, it's actually a practical set, and it was combined together so well. So it has all the technical achievements. All the Muppet performers are as good as you would expect from them. I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on that. And the slapstick is absolutely hilarious. But there is one glaring issue that I have with the Muppet Christmas Carol, and unfortunately it is Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. In all fairness, he's not giving a bad performance. When you look at him on screen, you can tell that he's treating the puppeteers as seriously as any other human actor that he's worked with in his past career. There's no hint of sarcasm, there's no hint of embarrassment, and he actually stands on his own compared to the other Muppet characters, which, that alone is pretty impressive. But looking at his performance and looking at the other actors that they had considered for the role prior, because they had considered a few more Shakespearean actors who had more experience than him. They also considered George Carlin, which would have been a pretty awesome choice. And I know a lot of people scoff at that, but George Carlin was kind of like Bob Saget. He did as many adult things as he did children things. George Carlin narrated the original Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm not kidding. Go back and watch the originals. That's totally his voice. But focusing on what made Michael Caine a very underwhelming Scrooge, I know this is going to sound weird because usually he's the stuffy British snob who's right about everything, but he's a dick about it either way. But here's the thing. He's a snob, but he's not really a bully. And because he's not a bully, he's not a very intimidating Scrooge when he's supposed to be the scum of the earth. Say what you will about Jim Carrey in the Zemeckis version, but he knew how to be a bully when he had to be the scum of the earth, while also balancing out the more tragic, eccentric sides to the character. Sure, the character design definitely helped with that, but considering they were tracing over his performance, he still pulled his weight either way. But Michael Caine, I didn't think was very tall, he wasn't very strong, he just wasn't all that imposing of an actor. And of course, because he's not a very good singer, they wait till the very end where he has changed his ways to let him start singing. And while he's not a great singer, he still pulls off the songs fine. Which reminds me, that's the other minor issue. The songs in this movie are by no means any of the best Muppet songs you will ever hear. The composition sounds very beautiful, and that was the reason I was smiling during all the musical numbers. But the lyrics themselves rely a lot on actors stretching out the lyrics and just taking long pauses, waiting to think of something to rhyme with. At least that was the feeling that I got out of it. I don't know, the lyrics weren't good, but the composition was great. It was enough to keep me entertained throughout the entire time. And that's really all I can say about the Muppet Christmas Carol. It was a pleasant surprise, it was downright hilarious, and even though Michael Caine isn't the greatest Scrooge, he is definitely trying, and he's still giving a good performance either way. It's just nothing that really stands out compared to previous adaptations. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give The Muppet Christmas Carol a 4 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If you have seen The Muppet Christmas Carol, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more Christmas reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.